Hi guys, this video is the third video in my experienced teacher process. Today I'm going to be talking about the literature review and my first or initial thoughts on the literature review. So a literature review needs to be conducted in conjunction with the project proposal, and both of those need to be submitted by the end of this term. So I've basically got about 3 weeks to do that. That sounds like not very much now that I say it out loud. But yeah, so it's at the end of term. Now, I think I talked in the first video about the timing of this project. The timing of the project basically goes from term 3, 1 year, across Christmas to term 2 in another year, or at least that is the time in which you can gather evidence. However, you can't, which is fine for the standards-based pathway, but for the project-based pathway, that means that you can't look at a project that goes for a year because you end up with different kids after Christmas, and yeah, so that's a bit of a pain. Another pain with the timing here is this literature review is actually due at the end of term, so the end of term 3. And term 3 for Year 12 teachers, a bit of a pain in the ass. Year 12 reports, exams, 11 reports, exams, school references. So all of this stuff needs to be done, and on top of this, it's due at the end of the term. I feel that if they'd made it due at maybe the start of next term, that'd be better, because at least you'd have a couple of weeks of holidays to actually concentrate on it. But trying to fit it in is something that I'm struggling with at the moment. So we've got to do this literature review, so I've got to read things. The guidelines we've been given are looking at least 20 different articles, and the final thing being about 2,000 different words. Some of the words can be the same, but 2,000 words. So the reasons for conducting the literature review are basically to get an idea of the field, so that can then inform your project, which makes sense. And identify the different things that you should be looking at in the projects. This is a document that was handed out from ISTAA and the information that they've been given. Now, last week I was really stressing about this because I tried to sort of sit down and start it, and I went to Google Scholar because I'm a teacher, I'm not a uni student, so I don't have access to much. And when you go to Google Scholar and start searching things, one thing leads to another, which leads to another. And I actually found that this project that I'm looking at, because I'm in a flipped classroom, we do gamification in the classroom, I'm looking at mastery learning, which will be involving a website, so the kids will be doing things on the web as well as things in the classroom. So the search terms got really broad really quickly. So I started with the self-paced learning, then self-driven learning, and then got into, well, you can't do self-paced learning without regulation, so then you need to talk about self-regulation, which leads into metacognitive strategies, so that you can achieve your mastery learning. And because it's online, there's online learning and e-learning, and asynchronous learning, which I haven't actually typed in here, but there's just on top of the flipped learning and gamification, which we're already doing, so that needs to come in there as well. And my head just started to swim with the amount of different terms and different concepts that this project will touch on, but also probably not also with the amount of actual information out there, because each of these doesn't have a whole heap of relevant information or relevant research articles. And as I said, I was using Google Scholar, and a lot of these research articles are behind a paywall, which is a real problem for teachers, I think, trying to do something like this. Now, our school library does have access to some, or one of the providers or for journal articles, but it doesn't seem to have a very large range. I wasn't able to find any of the ones that I found in Google Scholar that were behind the paywall. I wasn't able to find them within our system from the library. So that sort of meant that I was limited to both this very broad range of things that there isn't a lot of stuff about in the first place, and then only the ones that are available free through Google Scholar, which is generally older articles. So that was quite limiting. And so yeah, so between the search terms and not being able to get my hands on stuff and the time frame, yeah, it was a bit, and you know, having a full-time job as well, I was a bit stressing over this whole process last week. Fortunately, I was able to have a meeting with my mentor, and we talked about sort of the focus, because I think that's the thing, like getting these together into some sort of coherent story or argument for the literature review. So the focus needs to be, for my one, I'm going to be concentrating on self-paced learning and mastery learning. I might put a little bit of the flipped gamification stuff in there to give a background on the classroom. I might touch a little bit on metacognition, because I think it might be important to do a little bit of metacognition training with the kids at the start into just how to self-pace, because they don't have those skills. But they're the main, these ones are going to be the main focus of my literature review. The other thing I did is reached out to my teaching community just within the school, and I do have a couple of people I know that are at university that I could have lent on. But one of my colleagues here at the school is currently doing their masters at uni, so they have a uni logon. So I was able to actually email from Google Scholar. So let's go put that. Oop, no, let's do this one. Put your search term into Google Scholar, and it'll give you all the things that are behind a paywall. And then when you get into that, it'll give you all the citing and stuff like that. So I've got that citing. What I did is I pasted it into a Word document, emailed it to a colleague, and asked him to use his logon to get onto the university library. That's taking longer than it should, but getting onto the university library and downloading those. So he was able to download me a whole heap of articles which look good. Google Scholar and the things that it links to do allow you to read the abstract, so you can get an idea of whether the article is going to be relevant. Yep, there we go. So there's the abstract there. I can't even remember. I'm not going to read it now, but I can't remember. This was one of the ones that I actually got him to get me. But yeah, so that reading the abstract can give you an idea of whether this is going to be relevant. The other thing that I did, which was really helpful, is a couple of colleagues had been through this process a couple of years ago. It's changed a lot since then, but they did have to do a literature review. So I got a couple of friends to send me their literature reviews just to get my head around what it actually looks like. It's not something that throughout my career, both teaching or at university, I actually saw much of. So I didn't have in my head what it should look like at the end. So by getting a couple of examples there, that was really handy. Once I put this together, I'll probably just put it on my Google Drive and allow people to download it. So not at the moment because I haven't written it, but maybe in a month's time, providing I don't forget, I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So if you want to, if you don't have somebody that's gone through the process, you might be able to download that and have a look at mine. Hopefully it's all right. Who knows at this stage? But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Still haven't wrote any of those words. But I'm trying to get some readings done in this time, doing sort of 1 or 2 each night, and trying to start to think about what the story I'm going to tell in this literature review will be. Well, I hope this was helpful for someone. It's kind of helpful for me anyway, so whatever. And thanks for watching. Peace out.